Firstly, welcome to everyone. I'm Hussein Essof. I'm with the Employability Unit at the Red Hub and the iLead Lab. And Trudy, is this your second webinar for the year or your first webinar for the year?
Second.
Oh, you did one in the first semester, right?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So this is the second webinar that Trudy is running for the year. And in this webinar, among other things, we're going to give away 3 gifts. I'll get to decide who gets the gifts, but the gifts is given to those who interact, engage, ask questions, etc., etc. It's not a BMW, so don't fight each other over the gift. But I think you like the nice token gift that I'm going to give to you. Trudy, please continue.
All right. Thank you so much, Hussein. Hi, everyone. I hope you are all well. Firstly, I apologize that I'm a bit late. I was having trouble with signing in. But otherwise, welcome to the Dealing with Failure webinar. Like he's mentioned, my name is Trudy Teledi. I'll be your host for this evening. And I'd like to also say a quick thank you to Hussein and Nombulelo and your incredible team for the opportunity to share once again, and this time on a topic that I resonate very deeply with. So a bit about my background. I'm currently the CEO of InvestEdge, a company that recently made the 2025 Top Empowerment Companies listings by Topco Media alongside other large companies. And in my spare time, around 6 to 10 a.m. every morning, I'm a news and business broadcaster on 938 Radio with DJ Fresh. But this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what I've been privileged to achieve. But this was not always the case in my life, right? So I'm just going to share a bit of a few contrasts, how things started off as failure, but then pivoted to something else. So, like you, I have been in varsity before. So, in my first year of varsity, at the tender age of like 19, I was academically excluded from my university. The name of the university is the University of Pretoria. Don't worry, I did study somewhere else, but the full circle moment was actually being invited by the same varsity, which was Gibbs, as a speaker years later. This is, yeah, the contrast. I think it just shows how things always come back full circle. And then the second example would be the fact that I didn't have the privilege of walking on the stage of my alma mater for my graduation. But years later, I was asked to deliver a keynote for 3 graduations for my very same alma mater. So sometimes what we think is failure is merely a redirection, right? And failure is painful, but it presents a unique opportunity for growth and reflection and an extraordinary version of yourself that you can become if you allow it. So to just go into our slides, um, we can go to the second slide. This is our agenda for the evening. We first have what is failure. Secondly, why do we fear failure? 3, famous failures. 4th is the growth mindset. 5, strategies to deal with failure. 6, dealing with building resilience and embracing failure. And then later we can just shoot right through to our Q&A. We can go to the next slide, please. So we're going to start off with what is failure, right? So failure can be defined as the lack of success in achieving a desired outcome. And I want us to highlight that part, desired outcome or goal, right? It often involves falling short of expectations, whether those that are self-imposed or set by others. It can also be perceived differently depending on one's perspective. Sometimes this can be seen as a stepping stone to success or a lesson learned if we allow it, is always the thing that I want to highlight, if we allow it. We can move on to the next slide. So many of us actually fear failure. I think I was one of those people who actually feared failure. And some of these reasons are, you know, things that I can relate to as well. So the first one is fear of judgment. Many of us worry about how people perceive us, right? We live in a society where so many of us, achievement is highlighted, and we're afraid of how we are going to be perceived if we do not actually achieve what we've set out to achieve, right? So we fear criticism and disappointment from people, our peers, our family, parents, even employers, right? If anything, we we try and shy away from actually failing. We're afraid to fail, and we don't want to fail. We don't want failure to happen to us. The second reason is perfectionism. As individuals, we may set up unrealistic goals sometimes, or unusually high standards for ourselves. And anytime we feel like there's a shortfall in these high standards, we view it as a significant failure. Thirdly, loss of control. So many of us want to be in control of our lives, and that would remove the element of surprise. There's nothing that's guaranteed in this world, and therefore we can only have a limited amount of control. There are only certain things. There are few things that are actually within our control, right? A good example would be I study. I have control of that. I don't have necessarily have the control of the outcome, right? And by outcome, I mean I don't know the mark I'll get exactly, but I can. What is within my control is what I can do to ensure that I get to a place of success, which is to study, right? That's the amount of control. There are certain things that we have control over, and there are things that we don't have control over. And most of the time, the things that we have control over are very few. We can't control the elements around us or how people respond to us, right? So we don't like the feeling of not being in control. And failure is unpredictable, and we don't like the feeling of unpredictability that comes with failure. So this leads us to anxiety about losing that control over what can be deemed as future opportunities, right? And fourth is the identity and self-worth. Um, Many of us tie our identity to achievement, and so failure would be a direct. It would knock at our identity because we don't identify with failure, we identify with success, right? And so we would not be able to identify with anything that is deemed as failure. So um, our self-esteem sometimes can be tied to the things that we achieve, and that does not correlate with failing in any way. So this can feel like a threat to our identity. Fifth is social conditioning. Like I mentioned previously, our society is one that emphasizes achievement, but we never speak enough about failure itself. And you don't get to success without failure, is the thing that many people don't actually highlight, right? And therefore, we usually don't have a great relationship with failure. And the truth is, most of the time, you don't get to success without it. Imagine or think back to when you were a child and you were learning to walk. You fell many times before you actually got to walk, right? And I think we shy away from conversations around failure, and therefore, because I think that could inform the kind of relationship that we have with failure, we'd have a more healthier relationship with failure, and that would help us to actually get to our goals faster because we understand that this is just part of the process. All right, we can move on to our next slide. So some of the famous failures, you might know of some of these, is Thomas Edison, who created the light bulb, known for inventing the light bulb. So he famously stated, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." So we know that he tried many times with his invention of the light bulb, but he also failed many times to actually get to that point. But what I love is his tenacity, the fact that he kept trying, though he kept failing, and the fact that he believed that the many times he failed, to him, he viewed it as the many ways that did not work out, or the many ways that the light bulb was not going to work. And so he needed to figure out how it would work, right? So these unsuccessful attempts were crucial for refining his ideas and ultimately achieving the groundbreaking invention that we all use today. Another is J.K. Rowling. Before her success that we know her for, which is Harry Potter, the Harry Potter series, she had numerous rejections from publications or from publishers. They did not like her style of writing. They didn't really resonate with the kind of work that she was producing. And instead of giving up, she viewed it as, this is not the right people that I ought to be publishing with, right? And she was struggling at the time, and she was in poverty, but she kept persisting, you know. She really believed in what she was producing. And her perseverance through that failure led her to some of her iconic books, and it also inspired millions around the world. Even today, like right now, we still mention the fact that she was so resilient, and she's such a creative, you know. And then there are more examples in the next slide.
Yeah, before we get there, Trudy, let me ask a question to you. And it looks like I'm the only one talking, so I'm going to win the gift myself, right? Is there a point where you tell yourself, stop knocking your head against the wall? I've tried it and I failed, and I've tried it and I failed. How long is perseverance?
That's actually a good question. I think this happens a lot with people who run businesses, you know, like they often ask, when do you know when to give up on a business, right? And I think that there's so many elements that contribute to you actually, you know, giving up, right? And I think the reason why some of these people actually kept persevering is because they believed so much in what they're creating, especially when considering the fact that they were disruptors. They were creating something that had never existed before, right? And they saw a gap in the market. They saw a gap that they needed to fill, something that would be crucial for the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so for
sure.
me, it's kind of tricky because you could tell someone, okay, quit when this happens, right?
Yeah.
But you'd find that they're creating a groundworking, they have a groundworking idea, right? Something that could be disruptive within the marketplace. So for me, it would be when it starts to affect even your mental health, when it starts to affect things like your family, you know. I'm such a great believer of having people around you, mentors, who are able to speak objectively to you when something is actually starting to be harmful to you. When the idea you've tried numerous times, and this is not something that they believe is going to work. And I think that it's good to surround yourself with people that you respect, some people that might know way more than you do, who are able to speak objectively in your life. So for me, there is no generic way of viewing, okay, this is strictly not going to work out, right?
Sure.
Because I'm such a great believer of disruption and innovation. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it's helpful. I think the main point, the point I was trying to make is that there's nothing wrong with failure or giving up. But where it's wrong or giving up too early, now everyone will decide what that is, right?
Yeah.
So think back to when you first learned to ride a bike. You probably fell a dozen odd times. You
Yes.
probably scuffed or your knees or your elbows or something like that, right? But
Yeah.
somebody was there to encourage you, and you carried on, and hopefully today you are able to ride a bike and you move on, right? And if you stopped at some point before you could get to perfection, in inverted commas, or perfection, not the right word, but you know what I'm saying, right? You would have never ridden a bike. And I know of adults today who can't ride bikes. Okay,
Yes.
because they just didn't, the fear of failure or falling, whatever it is. So you
Mm.
need to balance, and the key term in sort of 21st century parlance is this whole thing about perseverance.
Mm.
And in fact, when you go for an interview, for those of you who are going to go in an interview in the next year or two, one of the questions going to be asked is, tell me a time when you failed and how
Mm.
you persevered and overcome.
Mm.
And so, you can't invent the story on the spot, but if you have a real life experience, the person who's listening to it, it will resonate with them. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
disturb you, but carry on with it. You were talking of Thomas Edison, famous failures.
Yes, that's actually so profound. Thank you for that, Hussein. I think we can move on to the next slide. Another example that we have is Paul Harland Sanders. So before he founded Kentucky Fried Chicken, what we know today as KFC, he faced numerous rejections as well and business failures, including a failed gas station and a restaurant. But he persevered, and it paid off because then he began he began franchising KFC, which is now a global fast food empire, right? And I hope we're seeing the common thread here, which is perseverance, right? And also another thing that we're seeing in some of these examples is that some of these failures was some kind of pivot to something else. It was sort of like a redirection to something else that they were truly meant for, right? And our last example is Oprah Winfrey, who early in her career faced significant challenges. I mean, she was fired from her first television job as a news anchor. And this helped her to pivot to a more personal style of hosting, leading to the success of what we all famously know today as the Oprah Winfrey Show, right? Another example of that redirection to something that she was truly meant for, right? But I hope that the 2 points we're getting here is how they didn't stop, you know. Imagine if Oprah had stopped, like what Hussein was mentioning, is that we would not know the Oprah Winfrey show today. And had Mr. Sanders actually stopped, we would not have the KFC franchise, that is feeding a lot of families globally, right? And by feeding families, I'm referring to job creation, right?
Sure.
We can actually move on to the next slide.
Yeah, before you do that, I just want to give the first gift for tonight, if I can, Trudy. So the first gift is to
Yes.
Masipa Quintonia, first off the block in responding. Thank you to you and for your. At the end of the session, I'll share my email. You will drop me, you reply to that email, and you've won the first gift for tonight. I'm moving on to the next slide.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
just to add on to what Hussein was saying earlier, I think perseverance is also a matter of balancing commitment and wisdom. I just want to make an example with a relative of mine whom I recently discovered was doing forex trading. I think was mostly dealing with scammers. And this person for years, he's always believed that somehow money will come off the trading he's trying to do, and continuously losing money. And I think that is where then now wisdom comes in, because I could tell that the commitment is there, but this person keeps on getting scammed with the belief that he will get something in return in the near future, because these people can be promising. So I think it's a matter of balancing commitment and wisdom. And I also believe that to add on to what you were saying, as that perseverance lasts as long as purpose does. Yeah, it's
Fantastic.
just mm,
Fantastic. Olivaso, you are the second winner for tonight. Thank you for the courage to come on and to give your wisdom and to share it with everyone else. Thank you very much. I'm back with you, Trudy.
Thank you so much for sharing. I love that. It's such a great point. balancing perseverance with wisdom. And also, I think we usually fall for these scams when we think that we can make money very quickly. I think that's the problem, The wisdom part is knowing that good things not only take time, but we need to be wise about what we invest our time in, right? So thank you for that point. That's very profound. So we're gonna move on to, I think someone has lifted their hand. I'm not sure who that is.
That's down there. She's finished already. Yeah.
Okay, all right, no problem. All right, so we're gonna move on to growth mindset. And before we move on to that, I just wanted to give us a definition of what growth mindset means. So it basically means the belief that abilities, intelligence, and talents can be developed through dedication, effort, and learning. So people with a growth mindset see challenges as opportunities to improve. They embrace their mistakes as part of the learning process, right? And believe that their efforts lead to success. So this mindset encourages us to be resilient and to persevere and have a positive attitude towards our personal development and achievement, right? So growth mindset is more about your mindset as far as the obstacles that you face is concerned, right? I would like us to have a look at the following two videos I think are very crucial for mindset. The first one, I don't know which one you're playing first.
Yeah, let me just see if I can play.
All right. I don't know if there's audio.
Yeah, was there audio on that one?
It's a link, so it should have audio.
I'm just gonna test it again. Tell me if there's audio, otherwise I have to redo it, right? Just give me
All right.
Was there audio on that one?
No.
Okay, you have to give me a second. I need to just reset it, right? So give me a second.
No problem.
We're going to do it old school, guys. Forgive me. We're going to have to do it old school. There's a trick to doing it. I might just now figure out what the trick is, right? So the trick is to share, include sound over here, over there. Right. Okay, I'm going to play for 3 seconds. Tell me if there's sound, and I'll start again. Okay.
All right.
People's relationship with failure seems to correlate to their event.
There is sound.
Yes.
Okay, right. I'm going to play it again. Right. Thank you. I'm starting it from the beginning. Thank you.
People's relationship with failure seems to correlate to their eventual success. The type of person that quickly runs the test versus sits and procrastinates for years is really the winner. When I studied Amazon and Jeff Bezos' shareholder letter says this has to be the best place in the world to fail. I look at Thomas Watson back in, I think, 1950 or 60, where he says one of his employees had just made a huge mistake, which cost the company $600,000. And he's asked in an interview, are you going to fire them? And he goes, fire them? I just spent $600,000 training them. These people seem to have a different attitude towards the value of failure.
When you are breathing life force energy into something, you're okay with failure. We're just conducting experiments. We're finding the way that works. So it's like being a parent. When you see the child fall down, you get the child back up. We learn riding a bike. We have to go through falling off the bike.
People's relationship with failure seems to correlate to their eventual.
I must have some wisdom if I use the bicycle anecdote, eh?
Yes.
All right. Can I play the second video?
Yes.
Okay.
In our company, and still to this day, are the phrase 1%, which is an obsession about the tiniest details. And the second one is the word failure, which is our job is to increase the rate of failure, i.e. increase the number of experiments that we're doing. And if you just do those two things, and if you have so much passion as the sort of fuel in the engine, all you need is patience. And that's what we could see. We could see very early on that we were out carrying the competition on the tiniest little details, and we were willing to test more things. In the world we live in today, where the correct answer is changing faster and faster and faster, if you listen to futurists, they say that if you're 40 today, by the age of 60, you'll experience a year's change in 90 days. If you're 11 today, by the age of 60, you'll experience a year's change in 11 days. Which means the correct answer to anything, to how to shoot an interview, to how to make a podcast, to which platform to use, to where to put the meme bar on the video, what the title should be, what the color should be, because people start using dark mode on YouTube. So does that impact the color contrast of videos and thumbnails? So if you just understand that as like a principle, then the way to find the correct answer before everybody else is to increase your rate of experimentation. So here we have a full-time failure and experimentation team. So like Grace is the head of failure and experimentation. Her job is to make everybody fail faster, conduct more experiments so that we can fail faster, because failure is feedback, feedback is knowledge, and knowledge is power. So our rate of failure will correlate to our rate of success. Two of the most used phrases.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Are you back on my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Carry on.
Okay, I can't see the slide. I can only
You can't see the slide?
No.
It again, sorry about that. I need to find the slide. Can you see it now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd just like to know what takeaways some of you have gotten from those videos. And my other question for you is there a moment of failure in your life that you learned from? Those are the two questions I have for you. You can either unmute and tell us, or maybe you can just type it in. Really keen to hear what you have to say.
Good evening.
Hello.
Evening, Trudy. I really took away the fact that failure is not the end, and the more we fail, the closer we come towards our success. In my own life, like you, I was also academically excluded at University of Pretoria, but I realized from that experience that it wasn't at the end of the road in my academic career. Moreover, it was a fact that I needed to select my path better, and the path that I was currently on didn't align with my goals. I think that it's important to fail in order towards and the more you fail, the better you become at finding where you are and what path you need to be on.
Wow, thank you so much, Kyle.
And Kyle is our third
our
winner.
third winner.
And I'm going to give 2 more prizes after this, but Kyle's our third winner.
All right. Anyone else want to share?
Trudy, have you heard the term failing forward?
Yes, he actually mentioned that in the video. That they fail
right.
forward, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'll ask someone, maybe the first person who answers it audibly, what do you understand by failing forward? Anyone, unmute yourself and you'll be the 4th winner. Come on. What do you understand by failing forward?
So Bianca Pizza has said, very inspiring. I've been dealing with failure for the first time in my professional life, really feeling encouraged.
Thanks for sharing, Bianca.
Thank you for sharing, Bianca.
No one wants to say.
All right.
Yeah, so Bianca, firstly, you're a 4th winner, and there's a hands up. Who's TH? Tobile, you want to come through with the answer? What do you understand by failing forward?
All right, we have more replies. Some Non-Tutuzo says failure is a stepping stone. Failing forward is failing and moving forward. So Shade says my mic does not work, but I can try out the answer. Unknown user says facing challenges but choosing to learn from them instead of giving up. Failing forward is to use the failure and turning it into a success. And then Masipa says it's all about embracing failure. And then Unontutuzo says my mic is disabled.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. MS come through if you've got your hand up, and we'll give an answer after that. MS comes through. Is it Monica? Monica, come through. Monica, you're going to lose your chance. Monica, come through.
Is it Sadie or Shade? I'm not sure. I'm so sorry if I'm saying your name incorrectly.
Sokele. Is it Sokele? Monica Sokele? I butchered the name, but it's all right. She'll forgive me.
Hi.
All right, let's go on to somebody else. Is Kate
Jared's here. So yeah, I'm with my daughter. She would like to answer that question.
Yeah, let's
Sorry, she
hear. That would
just
be right.
seated by my side.
Right, let's hear.
Come and answer them.
Failing forward. Yes.
Failing forward is when you lose hope quickly and when you don't encourage yourself to keep on pushing.
Okay, there's no wrong answer, but a good attempt. Thank you very much. And for that, the gift is not for you, it's for your daughter, right? So you're going to message me in
Yes.
the end and I'm going to give it to your daughter. Let me just quickly try and
Her
give
name
you
is
the
Toto.
Okay, you'll
Yeah.
give me that. You'll email me with the details later, and we'll make a gift for her. So basically, usually when we think of failing back. We go back to where we are. Failing forward means you allow yourself to learn from where you failed and you continue from where you stopped. So you don't go back like in Monopoly. You go or Snakes and Ladder. You go to one. You continue from where you are. You've learned your lessons up to that point, why you failed, what was the what led to the failure, how did I feel from the failure, how did I deal with the failure. You bring all of that into your experience and you move forward, because ultimately failure is inevitable. I would almost be dramatic and say it's like death and tax. Okay, so failure is inevitable. It's how you deal with failure. It's how you take that and internalize it so that it doesn't defeat you. And then you can stand up and continue from where you are. That's what failing forward, sort of, in my mind, that's what it translates to. Okay. I'm mindful of the time. We've got about 20 minutes left, and I'm going to pass back to Trudy to continue with the presentation. Trudy, back to you.
And to just add on what you mentioned, Hussein, I think sometimes when we do deal with failure, we internalize it to a point where we start to identify ourselves or identify with failure as identity as well, especially if it's happened several times as well. And what we need to do is to realize that failure is something that happens to us. It's not who we are, right?
Yes.
And it's just like success. Success is not, it's not who we are, right? It's something that we achieve, right?
Sure.
So because once we start to identify ourselves with those external things, if anything different from that happens, we start to lose hope in ourselves, right? So it's just important to note that. I'd like us to move to the next slide. All right, we're just going to look at the ways in which we can embrace the growth mindset, right? There are 6 points that I'd like us to go through. So the first one is embracing challenges, right? So many times we like to shy away from any form of obstacle. We don't want to deal with obstacles, actually. So we start to view challenges as threats to us. But with a growth mindset, we embrace challenges. We view them as opportunities for us to grow, right? And also realizing the fact that we don't get to the places that we want to get to without growth. And growth is uncomfortable. Growth is unfamiliar. And we have to step into those places of unfamiliarity in order to get to a place where we move on from one level of growth to another to get to the actual place that we want to get to, right? So it's just to encourage us to step outside of our comfort zone, remembering that there is our comfort zone and then there's growth, but we can't have both. And nothing ever grows in a place of comfort, right? Secondly, we have to learn from criticism. Instead of taking criticism personally, right? We have to learn to develop emotional intelligence and understand and also discern between what is purely criticism and what is positive or constructive criticism, right? And then we take that in, understanding that that positive criticism is only there to build us and to make us better and not to cripple us. And also not internalize it as an attack. When someone says something, that is positive criticism, it's only to make you better and show you areas in which you need to improve, right? Thirdly is to celebrate effort, especially for a lot of us that come from, we come from different, social settings, and sometimes we're not encouraged to celebrate our efforts, but we're always told to keep going, right? But it is important to take stock of where how far you've come and where you are, right? Or what obstacles you have managed to get past, and look at that as a reference point for how much further you can actually go, right? So look at some of the things that you've been able to achieve as references for the fact that you are able to do even more, right? And then fourth is the cultivating curiosity, staying open to new ideas. There's a saying that says, if you are the smartest person in the room, then you best believe that you are not growing, right? Because it's only when you are hearing new ideas and hearing what other people's perspectives are on a certain topic or something in particular that you are able to grow in your level of understanding as well. It's almost like reading a book where you're able to learn from someone else's perspective. It's important to surround yourself with people who are actually smarter than you so that you can learn more than what you actually already know. Fifth is set learning goals, right? So many times we set goals that are big, right? Which is good. Say, for instance, a good example would be, okay, I want to pass the semester, right? It's a goal that you've put there. But incrementally, how do I get to that big goal? What am I doing on a day-to-day basis to ensure that I get to my ultimate goal? Daily, I should be setting aside X amount of time to ensure that I study, X amount of time to ensure that I research, so that I'm well versed in understanding this, not only this subject, right, or module that I might be studying. So allowing myself time every day to do the mundane things to get to my ultimate goal. It's getting to a goal is very boring, but it's very important to understand that incrementally I have to do those boring things to get to my ultimate goal. And then 6 is to reflect on failures, right? You analyze your setbacks and understand what went wrong. Sit down with yourself and try and understand what problem you've encountered. Like, how did I fail in this area? What went wrong, right? Understanding what is it that went wrong, and also looking at how can I improve on what went wrong. So I actually was succeeding until I got to this point. So this is what I need to change in order to move forward, right? So just reflecting on some of those failures and how you can improve from that. A good example, I'll use myself as an example. So I usually speak at events, and what I will do is I will sit with myself and say, okay, I didn't like that about what I did. I did not like that as well. How can I improve and ensure that I become the best speaker that I can possibly be? Maybe I might be lacking in my research in a certain area, so I'm just going to amp it up in terms of that. Right? Maybe it's my delivery. Maybe it might be something I might need to work on. Right? So that's just an example of how you can look at how can I improve? How can I become better? How can I become my very best? Right? And the last one is to reflect on failures. Don't shy away from reflecting on your failures. This is something that we tend to shy away from. We run away from looking at ourselves because we feel like it's so ugly to look at the lesser version of ourselves, but that is important to get to the best version of ourselves, right? So analyze your setbacks and understand how you can improve on that, right? And use those failures as experiences that will help you to grow. All right, we can move on to the next slide. And lastly is strategies that we can use to deal with failure. No, this is not the last slide, actually. This is the second last slide. So it's strategies to deal with failure, right? I think it's so important, like I mentioned previously, to create a supportive network, a group of people who are either mentors or really good friends or family who can offer encouragement and advice, especially when you've hit a stumbling block. If you feel like you failed in a certain area, you know, it does not feel good to fail at all. We're not saying these things because failure feels good. It's terrible. It feels terrible, you know, but you need people, supportive people around you who remind you who you are, who remind you of where you've come from. When you struggle to look at some of the things and the obstacles that you've been able to get past, right? You need people around you who remind you of who you are and where you said you're going and why you need to keep going. Secondly, is to revisit past successes, like I've mentioned earlier, that you need to remind yourself of your achievement. This will help you to boost your confidence, especially after you've experienced setbacks. And then thirdly is to set short-term goals. Like I've mentioned previously, that you need to break your ultimate goal into little tasks on how you can possibly achieve that more successfully. It's more manageable when you look at it from smaller incremental tasks, you know, than when you look at something, you know, as this huge thing that you need to achieve, because then it starts to feel overwhelming, right? And lastly is to limit negative self-talk. I cannot emphasize this enough. So many of us, when we experience any type of failure, we tend to speak negatively of ourselves, like, oh, I never achieve anything anyway, you know. You know, the negative self-talks that you say to yourself, right? And those are things that we really need to move past, because it's difficult to be pushing towards a certain direction but pulling yourself in a different direction because of your thoughts, you know. And your mind most of the time will lead you. You cannot get past it. It's almost like what they say, that you can only get as far as you develop yourself, like the amount of development that you allow yourself to produce, right? Or the ways in which you can work on yourself, like the amount of development that you've allowed in your life, that is as far as you will get, right? This is used often when we talk about entrepreneurs, that entrepreneurs sometimes forget that they have to develop themselves as leaders, you know, in order to get to a certain place, and they can't get beyond their level of development, right? Even in terms of negative self-talk, you know, if your mind is constantly limiting you in terms of how far you can get, you won't get to that place if you don't work on your mindset. So that's something that we need to replace, the ways in which we speak to ourselves once we've encountered challenges, or once we've encountered any type of failure. You need to change your language towards yourself, and how you think of yourself and how you speak to yourself. Is there a last slide? If I'm
There is
correct?
one more slide, but I just wanted to touch on something on the previous slide, if I can.
Yes.
That top one is so crucial, but I was thinking of making it slightly different, right? You know, in the world that we live in, and I don't want to say South Africa more than the other. I mean, if you follow international news, there's depressing news, there's people going through challenges all over the world. Okay. And can we play the role of a supporter? You're not the only person going through challenges, there's others going through challenges as well. So can you play the role? And you don't have to be an official mentor, you don't have to be an official coach. You can see it in people, if you know them well enough, on a day-to-day basis, that they're going through, you know, CRAP, you know, they're going through difficulty themselves. Don't be that person who's going to tramp on them. Can you be a positive sign, a positive light for somebody, a positive message for someone? That positivity has like a good karma of coming back to you. So maybe a commitment out of today, among the 4 or 5 commitments you want to make, is not, don't beat yourself up. I think that's what you're trying to say in the last one, limit negative self-talk, right? Be tough with yourself, but don't beat yourself up about it. You know, figure out that, you know, this is part of the path to success. But can you also adopt a mindset of, I'm going to try and be a little bit supportive of somebody else, because, you know, it may just help them through their difficult time. And like I said, that thing has a way of coming back to save you as well.
Yeah. And I think also you feel better about yourself as well. There's something about extending kindness towards someone that does something for your soul, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, there's something about that is really healing for the heart. So I completely agree with you, Hassan.
Thank you.
I think we can move on to the
We go to
next
slide 10, yeah. Slide 10, yeah.
Yes, okay, this is our last slide. So the last one is building resilience, which is quite important, right? And the first point is to accept imperfection, especially for us perfectionists, you know, um, accept the fact that you are imperfect. You know, you will make mistakes, you will fail, but you can get up from that failure. So to think that we are perfect, is unrealistic. We have to embrace that about ourselves, and understand that those mistakes that we make are part of our growth, and that growth reduces our fear of failure, right? And then our second point is to limit exposure to negative influences. So if there are environments, that sort of serve as a conduit of negativity, we might maybe want to stay away from that, because the last thing we need, especially if we are people who are prone to negativity or negative thoughts, it might create a sense of hopelessness in us, right? Another point is to learn to reframe failures, right? So consciously viewing those failures as valuable feedback. It might be happening to you and you might not be necessarily engaging with someone about it, but considering that feedback for something that you need to work on, and not view it necessarily as, oh, I'm flawed in this area, right? But just look at it as, okay, that is something that I need to work on. So you reframe the way that you view the things that you fail in, right? And the last one is to embrace discomfort. I cannot emphasize this enough. Growth is so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. And like I mentioned in the beginning, that it's because you're in a place of um, unfamiliarity. It's so you have to put yourself in places and in spaces where you will be uncomfortable, because it's sort of like a muscle that you develop, right? That discomfort tends to start to become some level of comfort, because you're doing things that are outside of your comfort zone, and anytime you're going to pursue something that you've never done before, you will be uncomfortable. So it's something that you have to constantly embrace in order to come to a place of success, or get to a point where you are a better version of yourself, right? So I'd like to highlight that for the first time. It's very important to embrace discomfort. I see there's a hand that's raised there.
Biso, come through.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to talk briefly about, or highlight rather briefly about the first point you made, which is perfection. I think, can you just, if you would go back to the first slide, it
I'll do
just
that now.
talked about to the previous slide. It just talked about perfection being unrealistic, accepting that perfection is unrealistic. I think nowadays it is so hard to actually accept imperfection, especially because the illusion of perfection in social media is on a high. There are those perfect bodies, those flawless homes, ideal relationships, constant success. It just makes you question yourself that,
Yeah.
am I relevant in this world? Like, what's going on with me and my life? Like, nothing seems to connect, nothing seems to go right. It's like we get to, social media has given us the pressure of constantly comparing ourselves with other people. And I think you are right. We just need to learn to accept to accept imperfection and just be realistic with ourselves, hard as it may be. We just need to recognize and appreciate every effort or every achievement we have on a daily basis, because whether you like it or not, somehow you are achieving to a certain extent. It may not be as it is on social media, but there is some self achievement that you just need to pat yourself in the back and be like, yes, at least I've achieved this. At least I have this. It's just that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mhlobis.
Is there another hand up? There's all the hands up. Let's try and round up, Trudy, but thank you very much. I think it was a really good session so far. We've got about 4 minutes left. Let's see how we can round up. Maybe we can take 1 or 2 more questions or comments from someone. I'm itching to give one more gift away. I've
There's
done
so
more
many
than
comments. I don't know if you
yeah,
want
so
to
many
go through
comments. I
them.
need to find the right one. Come on. So 6 gifts so far. Come on, one more. Monica has also been trying for a long time. Monica, come through. Monica, can you unmute? Maybe you should type, Monica, if you can't unmute.
Let me read some of the comments while Monica tries to come through. So Bianca says, you are more than your setbacks. Unknown says, failure should not define us, but use that stumbling block to be encouraged to push further and get where we want to be. And Shade says, embracing challenges is important, as everything you want is on the other side of fear, which is something I really struggle with. But this webinar is really helping in improving this in this area. Growth mindset is seeing failure as feedback as opposed to it being defeat, being able to move forward through the imperfections, learn, adjust, and keep moving. Shade says, or Sadie rather, another strategy is to oh, goodness.
Sorry, that's me.
Yeah, the comments keep coming in. Another strategy is to separate the failure or event from your identity. And then personal development and self-awareness is crucial. One should be prepared to learn instead of harboring preconceived ideas. Alana, whatever you do, be kind. Bianca, if you know better, do better. Unknown says, work to improve the weaknesses of your failures and turn them into strengths. Over time, you will get better at it. Non-duduzo, limiting exposure to negative influence resonates with me so much. And then Carlita says, I had such a horrible day full of failures, and this class was just what I needed. Thank you, Mr. Hussein and Trudy. All right. I don't know if Monica managed.
No, she didn't type anything. Monica, your hand is still up with your hand. Can you talk, Monica? I can't hear you, but can you talk, Monica?
Yes, evening, everybody.
You came through. Right. Let's hear it. Right.
You're itching to give me a gift, but I will give it to Mhlobiso today. We're having supper in the house. Sorry, it's I don't know, it's a mess, or rather it's a lot that is going on. So I told them to keep quiet so that I can answer Hussein, because he's been itching me to speak. So please give it to Mhlobiso tonight, the last gift that you have.
No, don't worry. I can find gifts. I'm sort of in charge, so I can make up more gifts.
No, but tonight Mhlobisi deserves it.
Okay, all right. So she'll be in touch with me. All right, let's take a final what you call it from Maggie. And then I want to do a small advert. Maggie, come through, Maggie.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Hussein. I think mine is about the issues of trying to succeed after failing. Actually, I think it could also assist a lot if you've got self-directed growth. Especially when I look at the platform that we have here at Regent. If actually one is not prepared to learn and on your own, and also try and ask questions and maybe email to the lecturers, you will not be able to move forward. For instance, I think for the first time, I got the lowest mark in public law, and which actually it was just above 50%. I was really discouraged. But by going through the lecturers' presentation and the webinars, actually I've been able to see where I went wrong, and especially because I came in with the preconceived ideas, especially because I'm in the health sector, and I was thinking, no, the question of people accessing healthcare who are not actually from the country, it cannot be right. But by going through the webinars and the presentations, I've been able to learn that the Bill of Rights actually addresses everyone in the country. So I'm hoping that my exam actually will be better. Thank you.
All the best to you, and you're a winner for that as well. And this guy is really making my life hard, but I'm going to give it to him as well. Let me just edit this message quickly. Okay, and we are done in 30 seconds. By the way, guys, I posted earlier, how many of you have been onto the employability website? Can I just get an indication by hands or something like that, the thumbs up? How many of you have been onto the employability website? Thank you, Kyle. Who else has been on employability website? Guys, if you have not yet been on the employability website, you're doing yourself down. It's free. We've got courses there for you for free. We've got opportunities there for you for free. We've got networking there for you for free. We've got these videos and support there for you for free. Please go and visit. There's two things that we want you to use immediately. There's a CV writer there, and there's an interview simulator there. Interview simulator. Go and find it. Go and play with it. Give us feedback on it. We've developed it for you. It's for free. Trudy, I can't thank you enough. Thank you. This is you've given us time in the course of this year twice already, among the many others that we've had. We've got 16 webinars. If you've missed it on the portal, you can go under the webinar section under the employability website. You can catch up any of the other webinars that you've seen there, that you've missed there. Catch up with them. They're just as insightful as this one. All of them were good, and this one was just really good as well. Good luck for your exams, guys. All the best. We want to see you in the new year in class again, and hopefully everyone makes it into their third year. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Krudi, last word to you. Trudy, last word to you.
Thank you so much, Hussein. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was so lovely meeting you all. I've really enjoyed these sessions. And yes, guys, please take this with you as you prepare for your exams. I believe in all of you, and I know that you do well and be back next year with flying colors. Have a brilliant night. Thank you so much, Hussein. Bye.
Thank you. My email address is there to the winners. I don't know how many winners. I ran out of the count for winners, but I've got this list. I know who you are if you try to cheat me. Bye-bye, everyone. Goodbye.